Um, so thank you so much for joining Sabrina, and I am the University Partnership Manager for Absolute Internship, and I work closely with Sarah and the Broad College of Business for international internship programs. So I'm really glad that you guys are here and thinking about doing an international internship. Networking, as you know, is really important for getting a job in the future or getting other good internships. And doing an international one is a great way to level up and really expand, your network. With an international internship, you will be able to make your profile stand out. So if you compare yourself to, your colleagues at MSU or at other universities nearby, when you're applying for jobs, you might have similar experiences or kind of similar internships that you've done, maybe in the Michigan area or in that zone of the US. But having an international internship really does set you apart. And very few people, unfortunately, are able to do an international internship during their undergraduate degree. You get to hone your cross-cultural business skills. All of our companies are international in that they work internationally, they have international colleagues. You could be working with people from all over the world or clients. So it is a very diverse environment, and you get to learn to work with people that are different than you, that come from different cultures, different religions, different languages. And that really helps expand your knowledge and also how you work with different types of people, which is really important because, all companies are becoming quite global now. Even if you're in, Michigan. You get the chance to work professionally in a foreign language if you know one. So English is the requirement for all of our internships, but if you know some Spanish or if you know some Portuguese or Chinese or whatever the language might be, you might be able to use that in the internship as well in a professional setting. So we have students that, maybe they're advanced Spanish or advanced Chinese, and they'd really like the chance to use it in a work setting and outside of the classroom. So that's definitely a possibility in the internships as well. So just to give you a brief introduction of Absolute Internship, we have been working since 2009 with over 5,000 students across Europe and Asia. On average, we have 53 different nationalities in our programs each year. So it's very diverse, our program. We have students from the US, like yourselves, but then from all over the world, literally, that are in the program and that are part of your cohort. So not only will you be abroad doing an internship with a company in another culture, but you'll also be socializing and meeting students from other backgrounds as well. We work with over 800 companies across our locations in 30 different industries. So I will be focusing in on our locations for this upcoming summer, which are Barcelona, London, Madrid, Lisbon, Singapore, excuse me, and Shanghai. And then industries that we have that are most relatable to Broad students that you might be looking for are accounting, business development, entrepreneurship, event planning, finance, logistics, and marketing. Okay, but we have over 30, but these are the ones that most Broad students would be looking for. So just to give you kind of an overview of the different locations that we have for this summer, and to help you kind of decide maybe where you want to start. London, as most people know, it's a very popular city. It's very large, okay, around like 9 million people in the metropolitan area. An hour commute or more is normal. So commuting is very long in London. It's an extremely international city. So like New York, that you have people literally from everywhere and cuisines from everywhere in the city. I would say it's one of our least affordable locations. London is a very expensive city, and especially if you're paying with dollars, right? If you're paying with your American credit card, it is very expensive. So that's something to keep in mind if you have a particular budget for the summer. And then weather can be unpredictable. So in the summer, it can be kind of cold and rainy, or there can be a heat wave and it's super sunny. I always seem to be there when there's a heat wave. and, and they don't do air conditioning because it's not usually hot there. So we get to experience that in the summer. But I mean, students love interning in London. They love the work experience and the companies and colleagues. So, I mean, it's a great location. These are just some points that I've kind of pointed out to keep in mind. And then moving on to Barcelona or Madrid. So we have Barcelona on the left and then Madrid on the right. I would be asking you, if you're thinking about both cities, if you're looking for more of a relaxed or more formal attire for your working experience. So Barcelona tends to be more casual than Madrid. So Madrid is the capital city. People do dress up a bit more. It is a bit more formal in everyday life. Madrid is definitely the place to go if you're interested in practicing your Spanish or really want to experience the Spanish culture. And Barcelona is much more cosmopolitan. So it's much more international. About 20% of the population is not from Barcelona. And in Madrid, it might be around like 10 or 15%. So it's quite lower. But Madrid also has a lot of international people, but Spanish speaking international people that come from Latin America. And then Madrid, okay, so do you like a large city feel? Sorry, it's a typo, or compact city? So Madrid is a very large capital city. It's large in expansion and size. Commuting is longer. And then in Barcelona, it's a very compact city because of the geography of the city. So it's pretty easy to get around in about 30 minutes, but you're very close to people in the city. Both have great, I call work-life balance, in that they really value, doing a good job, but then also relaxing and enjoying life outside of your internship. In both Barcelona and Madrid, the sun doesn't go down until about 10 p.m. in the summer, and people are always outside. They love to be on terraces. They love to enjoy life outside. So that's something important. Spanish people always love to be out on the streets, walking around, being social. And there's great weather in both locations. So very like sunny, summer weather in both places. Lisbon,
Sabrina,
yeah, sorry.
if I can have you with with Madrid and Barcelona, I think one of the other big differences that students might want to know about and think about as they're weighing their options is to do with the housing. Because in Madrid, the housing it is all single rooms, and it includes 2 meals a day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So as students are thinking about both budgeting, what their additional costs would be, as well as thinking about, their own sort of time and what they might need to do as far as grocery shopping or meal prep or going to restaurants or whatever. Madrid includes breakfast and either lunch or dinner daily for everyone in that location, correct?
Yeah, sorry, thank you. Thank you for mentioning that, Sarah. Yes, that's correct. And Madrid is slightly cheaper than Barcelona as a city. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for adding that. Let me know if I missed anything else. And then Lisbon, sorry, so moving to Lisbon, Portugal. So Lisbon is a much smaller city than any of the previous three we discussed. It's around 500,000 is the population It's very affordable. It's also big on the work-life balance. So it's not like a high pressure, work environment. As well, great weather, so much sun. It's always, the sun is always shining in Lisbon. It's a beautiful city with a lot of character and hills, and so students really love interning there as well. So just to highlight that, Lisbon is not usually on people's lists of places that they're thinking of, and so I think they're pleasantly surprised when they choose Lisbon as a city for an internship. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything, Sarah, about Lisbon.
No, I mean, I guess the one other thing I will add, because, you did say a little bit, it's not usually on people's radars. My impression of Lisbon is that it's really in many ways sort of an underrated city. It's very, when you go to a city like London, or although it is not an internship option, a city like Paris or Rome, you've got a lot of tourists. You've got a lot of, it can sometimes feel like you're living in a little bit of a Disney-fied location, if you will. And I think Lisbon still is very sort of authentically European, if you will. That there are, well, English is, of course, widely understood and widely spoken. It is not as widely understood or spoken as it is in Barcelona, for example. And I think is just it's also an incredibly picturesque city, I would say, right on the water and everything. So
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. So, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end if you guys have more specific questions. And then moving to Asia, so we have two of our locations for Asia. We have Shanghai, China, which we're hoping will be able to happen this upcoming summer. We're waiting on, final notifications about the government and visas and things like that. And Singapore. And so Singapore, as of right now, it is open to vaccinated US citizens. So we're very confident that it should be happening this summer. All of the other locations as well in Europe should be fine for this summer. We had students this past summer interning. But then for Asia, so these two locations, and I know Sarah can probably explain a lot more than I can. But what I try to help people think about when you're thinking of, oh, should I think of Shanghai or Singapore? I don't really know the difference, right? Well, Shanghai, you have around 24 million people. It's a massive, massive city. And it's a very, modern city in China. It's very international. There's a lot of business there. It's very, very popular place to be. And then Singapore, on the other hand, it's an island. Like they have many different islands, and the main island, they have 5 million people there. So it's a very different setup than mainland China. And then in terms of the experience, so in Shanghai, of course, it's very Chinese. Some people know English, but it's not that like well extended, depending on kind of the circles I think you move in. And I mean, in your job, you use English, but everywhere else, it is in Chinese. Or I was using like a translator app to get around and to order and everything. And then in Singapore, they have 4 official languages, and English is one of the official languages. So many students, if they're thinking about going to Asia for the first time, they might feel a bit more comfortable with Singapore just because it's a bit smaller, even though still 5 million people. English is one of the official languages, so it doesn't feel, as such of a shock maybe as being in China for 8 weeks. And then both places, I would say I call them intense internship hours, meaning that, you work very hard and you do a lot of work during your internship. So unlike, Spain or Lisbon, where you're taking, coffee breaks and things like that, and maybe having a long lunch, they really want to do the most they can in the hours that they have. Students that have interned in Singapore, they were like, I never knew somebody could work so hard at a accomplished so much in like a short amount of time, and they loved it. I mean, they loved the experience. And then both places, get very hot in the summer. But you have air conditioning obviously inside. So it's just kind of going from hot to cold throughout the day. And then Sarah, I know you could probably give a lot more information about either place, but those are just kind of like, just general, like kind of,
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
So I mean, the first thing I'll say is, I honestly, I love both of these cities. I mean, when I work with Sabrina, when I work with any of our providers to develop a program, we in the college and I in my role are looking to do that in cities where we feel that students will have an incredibly positive experience. And so I think that both of these locations are really fantastic. I think, to Sabrina's point, Shanghai is a location where you're really pushing yourself outside your box or your comfort zone a little bit more. You're going to find fewer people who speak English. You're going to, it's not necessarily going to be the case that every taxi that you get into is going to accept a credit card the way that, the taxis in Singapore will do. China is still despite the size and the vastness, it is still in many ways a developing market. Shanghai is an incredibly high-tech city, but there are still in some of that, the smaller shops that again might not take credit card, or in other transactions where you're going to really find and feel a difference in the not just the high level culture, but the nitty gritty day-to-day culture that you might not see as much in a Singapore. And I think, Sabrina's point about the working cultures is really important, that, if you've not already encountered that or heard that through classes or through students on campus or anything, that the Asian working culture is much different than the US or the European culture. And, especially if you are thinking about a longer term career in international business, it's a really great opportunity to understand firsthand what that means, what that really looks like, and to gain some firsthand experience as far as that goes. But they're both, I mean, they're cities that have great public transportation systems that you can move around easily, safely. I think one of the biggest differences is the size, that it can take literally 2 hours to get from one part of Shanghai to another part of Shanghai, whereas Singapore is much more compact. I think roughly the size of New York Central Park is what I want to say, Sabrina, that I've been told there, but much more compact, and for that reason is also, even though it is very hot, a bit more walkable, and a bit more, you can also get from place to place, street level, in buses as opposed to just subways if you want. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I mean, both places, like Sarah said, they're very safe, and people are very kind, even if you don't know the language. And so it's just kind of, I always ask kind of what your comfort level is and how far, you want to push your comfort zone. We have many students that go to Shanghai for the summer, have never been, maybe have just a very basic knowledge of Chinese, and absolutely love the experience and fall in love with it. But I think you have to have that right mindset of, putting yourself in this situation, right, for 8 weeks and working and learning. So yeah, we're happy to answer more questions too, but thank you for that good overview. And then just to go over some details, so the duration of the program is the same for all the locations, from June 3rd until July 28th. So the commitment is 8 weeks, 40 hours per week. So it's a full-time internship, Monday through Friday. The application deadline, I believe right now on the MSU education website says January 1st. We might have another deadline before that just to kind of start working on students as well. But
I
you have
have good news on
until,
that,
oh, okay,
Sabrina,
yeah.
actually. As of late yesterday, so this changed. So we are now actually able to confirm and accept students as they apply. So the
Oh,
final
great.
deadline is January 1st.
Okay.
But the admissions are rolling. So if you complete your application, if you finish this and go home at lunch today and decide to do your application, then I would see that. Today's Friday, so I would see that on Monday. And you would then be able to be confirmed, once you had done an interview. I know you're going to talk a bit more about the process, the interview with Absolute, but we're able to take some of those gaps in the process out.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, that's great. And then the program fees, it ranges based on the location. So Lisbon is the most economical program. So starting at around 5,400. Now that doesn't include the MSU credit and maybe insurance and things like that that the Education Abroad office will confirm. But just to give you guys kind of a range, and then up to 8,000, I believe, for the London and Singapore program. And that's just because of cost of living in the locations. And then just to go over what's included. So I've been kind of speaking a little bit about it, but we organize your internship in a specific industry. So full time, we have onboarding. So we have pre-departure orientations and then also orientation and welcome weekend on site once you arrive. We include your accommodation. So all of our locations, they have very nice accommodation. Most are single rooms, and some locations they are double rooms, but you have access to everything. There's cleaning service, there's usually a gym, different amenities in the location, and we have all of our students in that specific city in the same housing. So we don't have students across the city or in different types of housing. They're all in the same quality of housing, all in the same location. Why? Because you're working Monday through Friday, and it's really nice when you come home from work and you see friends and you're like, hey, do you want to go make dinner? Do you want to go out and get dinner? You want to do something? Like, it really does create a community, and it makes it easy for you to be able to see people and to do things outside of your internship, and definitely not feel like you're just working and then going home and being by yourself. Transportation is included. So we have a transportation pass for the commute to and from your internship, and usually as well around the whole city for your whole program. So you don't have to pay extra to get around on public transportation. Now, taxis would be extra if you wanted to take a taxi. Like I said, we have welcome weekend. We also have day trip and weekend trips, which I'll go over in a second, and then visa support if needed. So like for Shanghai to do the program, also Singapore. So we include that assistance. And then for London, we help explain how to apply for the visa, which is done by the student with the Visa Processing Center. So just to go over the activities so you guys can get an idea, it's a similar setup for all of the locations, but the activities change based on where you are. So we have career development activities, company visits, career speakers in all of our locations. So here you can see some of the places we've gone in each of our city. And then we have day and weekend trips each month to help you get to know the location that you're in, and to also have some fun as well outside the internship. So here you can see our destinations that we've gone to. If you don't know them, I'd look them up because they're really great. Here you have Madrid and Barcelona. So here you can see, for example, Madrid, they go to Barcelona for a weekend, and Barcelona goes to Madrid for a weekend. So I always tell people, if you're like, oh, but I really wanted to see both, you can. Like in the program, you'll be able to see the other city. And usually when students go, they're like, oh, I really like my city better. I don't know, you get used to it. So that's interesting. But yeah, we have all of our activities here. And then for Shanghai and Singapore, you have the different activities here that we do. And these will all be dependent as well, upon COVID regulations, things like that. But for this past summer, we were able to operate pretty normally. So we're hoping it'll be even more so for this upcoming summer. And then just quickly to go over some internship examples to give you an idea of kind of, okay, what sort of internships would you do abroad and what kind of, responsibilities could I be expected to have? So here's a business development internship. And again, it shows it's a company that we have offices, in China, Hong Kong, Singapore. So they work in different locations, but then they work with Chambers of Commerce Association in over 40 countries worldwide. So that's why it's really interesting for companies that we work with to have international interns like yourselves, because they work with people around the world, and English is definitely an asset for that. And all of our students say that they're surprised by the level of responsibility that they're given in their internships, and that they really let interns, work on projects, kind of give their feedback, maybe make some decisions about what they're doing. Um, Here you have an entrepreneurship example. This one is, sorry, it's based out of Stockholm, but we have many that are similar to this across our locations. And so the entrepreneurship compared to business development is really, it's more of the kind of the startup, learning everything you need to know about a business. Usually students that do the entrepreneurship, they're thinking of having their own business one day. And I always hear afterwards kind of either people loved it and they definitely know they want to have their own business, or they're like, yeah, no, I'm not having my own business in the future. And like, I've just changed all my plans. So entrepreneurship is always a great one to do. Business development is more, helping a business expand, improve, reach new markets, like really developing, what they have going on. Finance, we have a lot of students that do finance internships. Here's an example of, it's a private equity firm and they work in investments and they're headquartered out in Asia, and they work across different sectors, so energy, water, media, health sciences. So there's a lot of different sectors that they do, financial advisory, investments. So students get to touch kind of these different areas, learn a lot about how it works, prepare some of the documents and things like that. And so they really enjoy the hands-on nature of the internship. Logistics. So we have students that also they do logistics internships. So this is one that they're global shipping and logistics, and they work across 5 continents. This one's based out of London, and the student works, on the whole process for rate requests, pricing programs, handle shipping lines, and they get to work on different digital tools that they have. And then marketing. So here's an example. We have many different marketing internships. This one is based out of Madrid. And they work with over 150 different consultants across the world. So you can see the list of all the different cities that they have, and they have offices in more than 100 markets. So many companies that we work with, they have many different, projects, clients, kind of what they're working on. And so a student will be assigned to work maybe on a specific one or a couple of them based on, your experience, your interest, your, what you're looking for in the internship. And so here you see a bit of their roles here. So how are you matched with the host company? So I've talked a little bit about it, and Sarah was mentioning it earlier. You have an interview with us before you're officially accepted into the program, where we go over, the industry that you're looking for, the location that you're thinking of, to make sure it would be a good match. And then we have you update your resume or CV, so that it's really focused on what type of internship you want to get. Usually students are missing information on their resume that they explain in an interview, or they kind of just put any and all experiences they have on their resume, but it's not really focused in a specific industry. So we go over this in the interview and have you update any of that. And then we send it out to our company contacts. in the location that you're going to. And so once we find a good match that they have, the type of work that you would be looking for, we know students have had good experiences in the past, and then they're interested in speaking with you, we set up an interview. So this is a virtual interview where you go over, what the company does, kind of what the role they have, questions you have. And then usually 9 out of 10 students, they are confirmed and placed with the first company that they interview with. And then that small percentage of time, maybe it doesn't work out, maybe the company decides to go with someone else. And so that's not a problem. We would arrange another interview because we do guarantee to get you a full-time internship for the summer. And then your internship is confirmed. We have the job description, your internship agreement, who you're reporting to, where you need to go, what your dress code is, what your schedule is, kind of what your tasks are. So all of that is clear before you travel to the location. And then just to go over some examples of alumni. So like I said, not many people do international internships, so you might not know anyone who has done one. So here I just wanted to give you some examples of students that we've had in our program, and then kind of what did they do after they did an international internship. So we have Emily. She was doing political science and business management, and now she's working as an associate for Navitas Capital in venture capital and private equity. Cameron was doing business administration, and he interned in Shanghai, and now he's working as a cotton commodity trading rotational associate at Cargill. Swetcha, she was doing business analytics and IT. And she interned in Barcelona, and then she worked as a business analyst for Amazon. And then Wilson, he was doing finance, and now he's an AML analyst at PwC. So we have many students that they work for very large, corporations and companies after doing an international internship, because they really do value that experience that you get abroad. Here we have just a few more examples. We have many more on our website, but Ken, he was doing business information technology in London, and now he's an artificial intelligence engineer at Accenture. Catherine, she did a marketing internship in Madrid. And now she's a marketing agency producer and project manager at 97 Design. Amanda was doing marketing management, and she interned in London and now is a sales development manager at Athena Health. And then Ashley, she did a logistics internship. She was business administration and supply chain. And now she's an in-house services leader at Waygate Technologies. So here's just a few examples of students. Like I said, we've worked with many across all our locations, but these are just to give you an idea of kind of, okay, where do people go after an international internship, and kind of what opportunities do they get, right? And we would love to have you join our network. Like I said, we have students from all over the world that are in our program from many top universities. And we would like you to be a part of that, and to be part of the cohort, and to really get to know students. So you might have noticed in some of the alumni examples I was giving, I was like, oh, they were in London, or they were in Barcelona during this year, that year. They were in the same cohorts together. And so now these people, they're friends, they have great jobs, and they're connected. And we want that to be for you and any of the students in our program. So we really encourage, networking, meeting with people, make sure that you get to know each other. And so here we have examples again of all of the many companies that our students work for now after they did an international internship around the world. So we do have alumni throughout the world, and they do tend to work, for the larger companies in different roles, because they were able to have a lot of hands-on work during their internship abroad. So we just like to share that because students always ask me. And I'd love to answer any questions that you guys have. We are very active on social media, Instagram, also TikTok. We're publishing every single day videos about international internship, insights, student takeovers, just lots of material out there to get you familiar with what is this, doing an international internship, and maybe questions that you have. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I'll go ahead and stop recording now.